Hello world of sim racing and welcome to the German talking to a camera. I hope you guys had a great weekend and a good start into the week already. Exactly. Welcome to Michi's Esports Diary. Quite an interesting weekend behind us, quite an interesting F1 weekend we've seen. Where do we start actually? There are so many topics to go through. There's so many topics that we could talk on for minutes, even a full hour. I hope that is not going to be a full hour, neither for you nor for me. Anyway, where do we start? I have no idea really, because there's so many topics, so many things, so many events going on in my head right now, that it is quite difficult to, just pick one and talk about it. But I'm gonna still try. So let's start first with the reincarnation of Mercedes. For those of you that have watched last weekend's F1 analysis video, they will probably remember me saying that Mercedes is kind of dead, Mercedes is kind of done. I don't underestimate the performance of Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton in particular, but I said there is going to be a huge stretch they need to overcome in order to get themselves back into business. Now, what I certainly thought that would happen would be that Brazil is a clear Red Bull track, a clear Red Bull territory, full stop, like always was. Whenever we came to height circuits, cornering circuits, and especially because of the shorter wheelbase of the Red Bull, a circuit with low to medium speed corners, which, what is the low to medium speed corner in Brazil? Turn 1, turn 2, turn 4, turn 7, turn 8, turn 9, maybe 11, probably not, but turn 12. The majority of turns is low speed to medium speed corners, so clearly Red Bull territory, as we've seen in Mexico already. Now, the moment I heard that, Mercedes is going to put in a new engine for Lewis, I was like, well, that's interesting. Apparently Mercedes got reliability issues, as we've already spoke about that last weekend. So I was quite surprised to see them picking in another one. The weekend may have shown us, though, as in why they did. So I'm no engine expert, or I'm no technical expert, but of course a fresh engine got just that little bit more peak power. Now, is that degradation of the Mercedes engines really so huge that they significantly drop off after the second or third run? Remember, Bottas got a fresh engine in that Mercedes for Austin. That said, though, Bottas has never been great in Austin. You haven't really felt the difference between old engine and new engine in Austin. At least personally, I did not feel it or see it in the lap times or whatever. So, I questioned whether that will be the real performance gain. And then remember what was said about that Mercedes suspension and about that Mercedes rear end in Turkey. The first time ever they said, okay, look, that Mercedes is significantly faster on the straights. And I think that was the first penalty of Lewis. I think it was in Turkey where he got a +10 grip position penalty for a changing engine, right? At least he started a bit further from the back there. As far as it was a P11, I believe. Anyway, so back then Red Bull was saying, oh look, that Mercedes is now strong, it's now quick on the straights. However, was that being the case, that this particular power unit just got, the first run, where it's so incredibly strong, where it's not degraded yet. And I believe the same power unit was run in Austin. The same power unit was run in mind, brain. Yes, in Mexico. And, you know, the power, I don't even think that Mercedes had a power advantage over Honda or over Red Bull at Austin, wasn't it? Like, I think it was the middle sector where the Red Bulls have been particularly quick, besides the third sector. And that second sector, obviously, I mean, yeah, you have turn 7 and 8, which is obviously still Red Bull territory. But then you have a considerably long straight, turn 11 hairpin, considerably, like, extremely long straight, turn 12 hairpin, and that's it. So, yes, beside the spin, slow corners where the Red Bull is significantly better than the Mercedes due to its shorter wheelbase compared to the Mercedes. Not sure if those 2 or 3 corners are really enough to outweigh the tremendous overpowered power unit by Mercedes. Like, we've seen in Brazil now that on a straight from turn 12 to turn 1 is, I think, kind of as long as the straight between turn 11 and turn 12 in Austin. Yet Hamilton gained 2.5 to 3/10 on that short strip altogether. And remember, Austin, the second sector, is just more than that straight. Yes, it is 3 to 4 medium to low speed turns, but it has a medium long straight and a extremely long straight. So, I don't know whether, that few slow speed corners really outweighed the performance advantage of the Mercedes on the long straight. However, and here is what I think made this performance gain look so tremendous in Brazil. Remember last week when we spoke about Mexico, there is 2 tracks where I would expect the kind of collapsing rear suspension on the Mercedes to work pretty well. The one was Mexico, apparently did not work well at all there. But the other one that I thought it would probably be worth it would be Brazil. Why? Because there's only 1, maybe 2 high-speed turns where your suspension could suffer that much from collapsing, And the first turn, that is turn 3, but you out-accelerate so hard out of turn 3, and it's so easy for those F1 cars that it basically turns like, just a bend straight to the left after quite a significant amount of corner. So that is maybe medium speed, not even high speed. Like the high speed section of that turn is effectively already a straight. Then the next high speed turn would be turn 5, but again, that is just like such an easy king. It's not even high speed. And then comes the corner with the highest high speed, I want to say, which is turn 6, turn 7, that uphill right-hander. Yet, I did Mercedes seen them not suffering there too much. Like, there were those little sectors that you can have in the timing app. And it's not like, they have been purple at times, they have been green at times. So it's not like the Mercedes has been really bad there. And then the last kind of faster turn is the downhill turn 11. And in that, I believe, with the center of gravity being elsewhere, I'm not sure if the rear tire load is really that high, so that the suspension just collapses and goes down in the back and gives the disadvantage while cornering. So, I believe if that reactive, well, it's a non-active rear end of the Mercedes, that's what everybody claims it is at Mercedes. If that system was built in the car, then I strongly believe that would have been for Brazil now. And I could imagine that system to also be used for Qatar, because I think Qatar has 1, maybe 1.5 medium to high speed turns. Every other turn there is kind of low speed territory. So it reminds me a bit of Bahrain, that layout. And well, then effectively the heat on Sunday didn't seem to fit the Red Bull quite as much as the Mercedes. So that was an interesting piece of strategy Mercedes has run for that weekend, and the interesting performance gain they've had considerably compared to Mexico. Like we all seen Mexico, yes. Like I don't know, the fact that this wasn't the 1-2 for Red Bull was to me it was a surprise, eh? And now we come over to Brazil, and I was still surprised to see Red Bull not having the leading edge over Mercedes over the course of the weekend. Now we can argue maybe the race format it has made it all a different story. This could well be. It's also a topic that I'm going to talk about fairly soon. And yeah, seems like Mercedes somehow has stroked back a little bit. Will they be back in business like this for the remainder of the season? I'm not too sure. Like, we've seen crazy things this year. We've seen crazy differences of performances, and it seems to be that this narrow window of car balance where you need to be to extract the most of everything out of those Pirelli tires, that window seems to be so close, and it seems to be on such a range. Like, really, such a range. And so I think each and every race, of course, whether the circuit suits your car or not, that will be a big difference. But I think that the key area that both of the teams and every other team needs to get right is to get your car into this slim window of performance where it can perform on a very high and quick level for a tremendous amount of time in terms of like 10, 15, 20 consecutive laps. So it will be interesting to see whether that was a one-off or whether they are really back. Again, I know at Mexico I said they're kind of dead, but don't count them out. Like, I don't count them out and underestimate them too, but I have kind of lost the belief in that something like who would have believed that this weekend for Mercedes would just go the way it went. If someone would have got into a betting office and put like 10 euros on it, that dude would be rich. Honestly, dude would be so rich now. And that is why I think, yeah, obviously a great weekend for Mercedes, but next week in Qatar, everything could be put on the top again. And that is how crazy F1 is this year. And I think as a spectator point of view, that's like the best that we can get, isn't it? So, yeah, we will see how that performance pans out for the next year. Also for the next year, but especially for the next race. Let's keep with Mercedes, but kind of change the topic a little bit. Obviously, it was during Le Mans Virtual 24, not 24, Le Mans Virtual 8 hours of Nürburgring, whilst I got the message that Lewis is finally disqualified. Why do I say finally? Because effectively, his car did not pass the technical test, and I was quite surprised why they even rescheduled the meeting for the next day to check more evidence and whatnot. Because, if your car fails to meet that regulation, then the only thing stewards can do is disqualify you. So I was like, okay, why they're even doing this? Then in the late night, I found out, or in the early Saturday morning, I found out that Max Verstappen has touched, I think, both cars, not only his car, but also Mercedes' car. And I'm not sure whether stewards was thinking that this little touch has caused I don't know, like, a change of parts on that Mercedes rear wing, which made it actually illegal. So maybe that was the case. I don't know. I think it would have been hard to prove anyway. And, well, I don't know if there is a rule that says if in doubt and so on. But yeah, that disqualification was probably an inevitable thing. What I don't get though, and I'm not sure on the exact rules and regulations and everything, and that is also a point Mercedes is raising. I think it was Red Bull that quite often fixed their rear wing, their gurney flap on the rear wing during Parc Fermé conditions in qualifying. It was to be seen in Mexico, and ironically, I think they also have done some hot fixes to their rear wings now on in Brazil. And that was obviously the reason why Toto was like, we saw him on the start like, wow, what is this? And head shaking. I was like, what the hell has he seen? But it seems to me that he's seen Red Bull mechanics doing some fixes on the rear wing. And obviously there's two different approaches, two different rules on this. Like if you go in and touch the rear wing and fix a broken thing, that could be a safety concern, that could be a reliability issue, some sort of thing. If you want and have to do it, you'll meet the technical delegate from the FIA saying, this part is wrong, we need to do this to fix it, can we get the clearance for it? So if that process has been done and is been followed on, then obviously you're allowed to change parts in the Parc Fermé conditions as long as you put in the same specification of the parts on. So you're not allowed to use a different gurney, you're not allowed to use a different screw or a different design or whatever. You have to put on a one-to-one exact same spare part on it in order to be allowed to change it. So, and to a certain extent, I agree with the penalty for Mercedes because the car did not stand the test that was conducted on the rear wing. But at the same time, it's like, and that is a general thing, if something breaks during the session, and whether that gives you an advantage or gives you a disadvantage, I don't know, like imagine a DRS flap is like all the way open, all the time, because it simply broke. You get disqualified because you're using DRS out of the DRS zones. But why? Like, there's nothing you can do against it right now. Do you really have to box the cars for repairs because you would have an unfair advantage on the straights while being miles off on the corners? I don't know. So, in that regard, I was a bit, that entire penalty disqualification, yes, according to the rule book, there was no other choice. But then you've read the full article, you've read the full document that documented how they got to that idea. And then, I'm shaking my head a bit. Like, FIA said it was not intentional. It was not an act of being careless. It was not an intentional design flaw because the main part of the wing met the requirements, and the left part of the rear wing also met the requirements, but it was the right part where, I don't know, I think something, according to Mercedes, something is broke. Disclaimer, obviously what the team says may or may not be true. No one can really prove apart from them. But of course, I can understand if there would be like, an official media response that kind of claims something not entirely true. Although, yeah, Mercedes is not really known for that. But put it aside, whatever Mercedes say could be questioned, of course. So anyway, it was only the right part of the wing that was broke, was not meeting the requirements of the regulation, and therefore they be disqualified. Then Toto Wolff saying they even had a disadvantage because the the wing being asymmetric on the car. Who knows? They pretend to know. Whether it is true or not, we don't know. Anyway, in that document, it was like, it's not done intentional, and we like the stewards agreed that it was damage and a result of malfunction that appeared and happened during the session. Like, nice, and you get disqualified for it. It may be racing. I don't know. I think it has been a bit of a one, but after all, the stewards have applied the rules according to the book, so everything's fine. The disqualification is the right judgment. It was painful, yes, indeed. Was it a 4/10 advantage worth? No, as we've seen in the race. Hamilton in clean air was able to go 3 to 4/10 quicker than Verstappen at the front. Not at any time, but at the front. And, well, there's not much to say about that ruling on the disqualification. Of course, it hurted Hamilton a lot because in the sprint, you lose the 3 points from starting from first and eventually finishing in first. But that was quite a remarkable drive. But we're going to talk about that race, the racing and the format in general later. Let us stick with the stewarding in F1 for a little time. And what bugs me as a fan so much is the inconsistency we see in those stewardings, and like the stupidly fucked up rule, excuse the language, fucked up ruling about overtaking cars side by side, behavior, moving and whatnot. That really bugs me so hard, because we all remember when Norris against Perez in Austria, turn 3, down the hill, Norris on the inside, Perez on the outside. Norris then understeered towards the outside, kind of let the car go a bit, and eventually squeezed off Perez into the gravel. Later on, I think Perez turned 4, 5 complex, did something out or something similar to someone else. Also got both got a penalty for running people off the track. Please, someone explain to me why Verstappen running Hamilton not off the track but miles off the track has no investigation necessary. Please explain. Put them down in the comments area below. I'm happy to evaluate those explanations, because I have no clue. Honestly, no fucking clue. It is... I remember myself sitting in front of the TV, and disclaimer now, all anti-Hamilton guys, all anti-Mercedes guys, please, 30 seconds forwards in the video. I was like sitting there, pens, and then that guy on the TV said, okay, we've now received an email after the stewards have noted the thing. I was like, yeah, no further investigation necessary. I said, what? Like, honestly, what? I haven't understood the world. It fucks my mind so bad. And I know I've talking to a few people and they say, oh, it was a proper dive bomb and whatnot. And I can see that point. According to the rules of F1, of FIA, maybe at that point, maybe there was, like, I don't know the sporting code myself 100%, and I don't want to go through it for the sake of my personal happiness. But, you know, the thing is, we have seen penalties for less harsh movement, for less harsh treating. Norris and Perez in Austria, Perez on I don't know whom in Austria, Alonso, Raikkonen at Austin turn 12, the same thing. Alonso was running off Raikkonen and had to give the position back. And because it's Championship 1 versus Championship 2, you just say, oh, no investigation necessary because they are fighting for the championship. Hell no. Like, why? Honestly, why? And that was a thing that got me a bit upset yesterday already. And I want to state this really independent of the fact that I'm a Mercedes fan or not fan. I would not want to see anyone being judged differently because of whatever reason. And the reaction Toto Wolff had to it, goodness me. I mean, I know that guy can get emotional and can skyrocket and show like lots of feelings. But oh my freaking God, I have not seen such a ecstatic Toto Wolff in quite some period. And I have the feeling why. I'm pretty sure that Mercedes feels completely mistreated for this weekend because I've mentioned that earlier. Red Bull fixing something on the rear wing. Mercedes and this rear wing is broke, we would need to fix it. Oh, but no, we first make a technical delegation, see that it's fault, and you got disqualified. I think that is what Mercedes is thinking. And Toto Wolff usually is a very diplomatic person, indeed. Whenever there's an interview, he's shot and left, he's shot and right, but he never says something truly specifically offending in a specific way. Like, there's always some cryptoning and some sarcasm attached to it so that you get the idea what he's wanting to say, but actually he's not saying exactly that. I'm not sure how he went on. I think in both on Sky UK and Sky F1 Germany, he came on the interview stage and directly attacked FIA in its stewarding as it's being embarrassing. And, that was an unusual direct speech of Papa Toto. And I gotta say, I feel him, no? It was interesting. The entire weekend went 100% against Mercedes in literally every aspect, apart from Lewis Hamilton got fined through both races. So, I don't think there is a systematic issue with FIA or ruling or whatever, or they tried to politically introduce a change of position in F1, meaning as we've now had 7 years of Mercedes dominance, we need someone else now up the top. I don't think that is the plan of FIA, and if that would be, that we would have mega issues. So disclaimer, this is not my personal opinion or anything. I am 100% sure FIA keeps that conform and it keeps that all good. But, and here's the but, which may some people get on even to get that ideas. The technical regulation, it hurted Mercedes and Aston Martin the most. We've already targeted that last week's video a bit. Not saying this is intentional, of course, but it is a fact, that Red Bull just had less suffering from that rule change, 100%. And when you look at, I was even surprised seeing Max Verstappen getting a warning for weaving. I would not be surprised if that wasn't even a no investigation necessary because they stayed in front or whatever. But I can get Toto. Like, if I put myself into the person that is in charge of that team that's constantly being turned down on FIA level, then I could get the impression, or like he said it in, I think on Sky UK, he said it, you have to be a little paranoid as well in that sport and always questioning things when you want to perform at the maximum level, whether that is a lower tier team or whether that is a higher tier team. That's what got on in his mind, just in general, so I figured that. But I can also understand his point of view, whilst I disagree with, with saying everything goes against Mercedes. That sure not. Anyway, that is the topic on FIA or F1 stewarding. That from a spectator's point of view is a bit to question. Oh my god, I'm talking so much. Need to have a quick snip. Nice. Let's talk about the race and the race format itself. The reason why Mercedes, I think, have took that penalty for the engines was because they thought they could win the sprint race, gain 3 points from it, and then maybe still have chances while coming from the back. So actually it was a maximization of things. Get fresh equipment, get additional points that you usually don't get still, and still have the chance to score considerably good on Sunday. And that was a perfect move from a strategic point of view. And I gotta say, I think that race weekend, what we've seen, at no point during this year, a Mercedes car has been that dominant. There were qualifyings with half a second up front and whatnot, like it was, what was it, Hungaroring, I think. But yet, the Mercedes, from my point of view, at no point has been ever so strong during this entire year, period. The way also Lewis Hamilton has handled this situation from a sporting point of view is outstanding. Like, that was a proper championships drive. People have said championships drive for Verstappen in Sanford, in Mexico. It's absolutely on top. Like, Max Verstappen does not do many, if any, mistakes. Like, over the obvious one, someone goes wide here and there, misses a little bit of the apex, everywhere. But he's not doing anything particularly wrong. And that is great sport, one gotta say, 100%. Right, and if we look at the race itself, like that onboard start of Hamilton in the last row, besides Mazepin. Like, I'm not sure if Mazepin's rear end has already left the starting grid box, whilst Hamilton was already alongside, if not passed already. So he jumped 4 cars on the sprint up to turn 1 in an unbelievable manner. And then, like, lap by lap, car by car, he took out one after another. He also overtook the most difficult to overtake car on the grid, from my point of view, the McLarens. The McLarens have been super quick on the straights ever since. We've talked about that last week. And it was Norris that he absolutely dive-bombed. And it was Ricciardo where I think he needed 2 or maybe even 3 goes to get past them. In comparison to that, we've had the Alpines being overtaken before the start-finish line. The Ferrari we've been overtaken before the breaking point. Tells a clear story, isn't it? So anyway, in a sprint race, 24 laps, everyone on the same tyres, jumping 15 positions from 20th into 5th. Oof, that was remarkable. I was like, oh my god, what a performance. So I was like, okay, P4, P3, surely possible tomorrow. And then he did to me the unthinkable. Like, he was back in P3 after starting 10th, like, after 15 laps, 14 laps. And, he overtook Perez then. Wow. Like, what a drive. And then we've already talked about the end. I think in that middle stint, though, I think Mercedes could have put on the pressure for Verstappen, but I think they were waiting to see until Max was either going to pit or staying out. I believe Mercedes' plan A after Hamilton into P5 was going to the end on that hard tire. I am pretty convinced about that. Because you see, like, he got close to Verstappen, but he was managing the gap short before DRS, 1.5 seconds back, 2 seconds back, always in that area, always in that room. And what I then thought was that after examining the medium tire of Hamilton, Mercedes thought, maybe the hard one is not going to get us to the end. And then they just, they knew what kind of performance was on the car. That's why they even went 2 laps longer, performing the undercut over Perez with Bottas first, then bringing in Hamilton. And they knew exactly that he's going to close a 3.5 seconds gap because the car is just so much more performance. So that entire drive from 10 to first, holy F, that was really impressive. And whoever's going to win that championship in the end, whether that's Max Verstappen, he deserves it. Hamilton deserves it as well. Both McLaren and Mercedes, they are competing on such a high level. Like, sometimes you have the belief that taking everything to the stewards or taking the smallest bits of pieces that gives you a minimum disadvantage, whether that's psychologically or physically, is going to make the difference in the end. And like, as a spectator's point of view, that's amazing. Like, it's not like when you have Bottas or Rosberg versus Hamilton in the same team. It's 2 different teams where it's, gloves off racing, and there you go. That said, and I want to add that on the Verstappen point of view, I get his intention to stay at the front by all means. You don't know whether the tyres of Hamilton may drop off. So eventually he gains a gap of a 5 second and gets a penalty, still wins the race. Everything's done right then, because if you have not the track position, everything's bad. So I absolutely get his driving. I absolutely get his intention, I want to say, to stay ahead of all times, or of all at all costs. And one has to say, the only thing I think Verstappen is regretting a bit is going defensive into turn 1 for 3 times in a row. That said, I'm sure he has seen the dive bomb of Hamilton on Norris. Like, if he does that on Verstappen, then it may still end up being the position lost in the first place. May also end up both crashing and DNFing, which would have been great for Max as well. So, it is kind of that situation. We have like a little bit of a Senna Prost thing here. I don't think neither of them is going to wreck into each other, but who knows? Schumacher did the same with Villeneuve. Who knows? With Damon Hill. I was processing my head right now. But at the end of the day, I believe, what Fernando Alonso has been for Michael Schumacher. Like, the guy that finally kicks you off the throne. That is what Verstappen is going to be for Hamilton. I do not believe, and I would be quite astonished if, let's say Hamilton wins this year. Next year, the cards are new shuffle regardless. But there is one significant change on the Mercedes side. It's going to be George Russell in that car. And I don't believe it is George Russell that will beat Hamilton to the next world title. Disclaimer, if Mercedes is still the number 1. I do believe, as long as the car allows, it is going to be Max Verstappen. And I don't know about the technical regulations, how much different. I mean, they are completely different, but, in what areas in terms of rake, aerodynamics and whatnot, how much different they are to this era's cars. One has to always have Adrian Newey on the notepad for a great car with new regulations. I'm pretty sure Mercedes can do the same. I will have eyes open for Ferrari. Will they be able to finally get their stuff together again and put out a good car? And I have my eyes open for McLaren, because they have been on a steady up road in the last couple of years. Like, they come really from the bottom, changed engine manufacturer twice, I think, first to Renault, then to Mercedes. They got a kind of considerably good chassis this year. They got a win this year. Has Ferrari got a win? Oh dear, brain. No, I don't think they have a win this year. They could have had one if they if they have looked at the powertrain correctly from Charles Leclerc's car. But okay, that was for Monaco. So it is the one non-Red Bull. Oh wait, Ocon got a win this year with Alpine as well in Hungary. Forgot about that. So yeah, I think one needs to watch out for Ferrari and McLaren. I think they could have a great car. I am personally interested to see Williams coming up again, and will be interested to see them going up. And I hope that Mick Schumacher and Haas are gonna improve good and have reasons to stay in Formula One, because I don't want to miss Günther Steiner. That dude is so good. We need him for Drive to Survive Season 4. Absolutely. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward for next year. And on a general note, I'd like to add that F1 has never been as joyful and as suspenseful to watch in the recent years. Of course, there's always been a chaotic race here, chaotic race there. But what we've seen this year, we've literally had everything. Spa was a joke. And effectively, that Spa race concerned us during the Le Mans virtual 8 hours of Nürburgring. There will be a different video on that coming on Friday. And, well, other than that, I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts, guys. I'd like to hear your ideas. I'd like to hear your imagination and your thoughts and opinions on things. If you think I'm a classic Mercedes, that this is too much Mercedes oriented, fair. I think though that Mercedes was the main topic in literally every area this weekend. So let's see what happens at Qatar. Qatar will be interesting. Qatar will be heat. Qatar will be desert. Qatar will be sand in the car, sand in the gearbox, sand on the wings, and it's been blasted, I'm sure. Looking at how Bahrain was, I could imagine that Red Bull has the quicker car on a single lap. Whereas I believe, as we've seen Brazil with being hot right there, I believe that Mercedes has a really, really good chance to beat them in the race again, like they did in Bahrain. Obviously, we need to see and everything, but that's what I think is going to be the case. Anyway, guys, I think that's gonna do it for this one. Hope you have a great week altogether. All your opinions, all your feedback, please put them down in the comment area below. Looking forward to hear your opinions and things. And other than that, guys, have a great week. See you on some streams, and see you on Friday when we talk about this week, what happens this week, and the Le Mans Virtual Series, 8 hours of Nürburgring. Stuff that goes on behind the scenes, personal opinion on some things. And obviously for you guys, as you've probably seen the red flags and the drama behind it, what actually happened, how is the procedure during such a red flag for the teams, as it's going to be extremely stressful to do the right decisions. We're going to have a little insight view into that, and I hope you guys have a great week. See you. Goodbye.